Hi, welcome back. If you are new here, my name is Mina and today's video is going to be the 25 books that I'm very excited to get to in 2025. This is going to be like a highly anticipated books video, if you will. I went through Goodreads and I went through subreddits and I went through TikToks and I went through like YouTube videos of people talking about what books they're the most excited for the new year, and this is my contribution to that. I'm just going to be talking about a bunch of books that I'm very excited for the new year that I will probably be doing a video with at one point or another. I did do a video of me reading my most highly anticipated books. That sentence made no sense. My like highly anticipated book releases of the first half of the year and the second half of the year this year. So I will probably be doing something like that again next year because I really enjoyed making those videos. So with that being said, these are the books that could potentially end up in those videos, and I am just gonna go through the year and talk to you about the books that I'm very excited for. I think in the end I will also tell you about some series that I would potentially like to start in the new year because I have worked through my unfinished series list and I have pretty much finished almost all of them. I am finishing the last video of that series of me finishing the book series that I'm in the middle of, video series that I'm creating. I will be finishing those probably in January of next year, so I want to say that I will be able to start new series, and I have stopped myself from starting new series because I wanted to finish the ones that I was in the middle of, and now that I have only the ones that are still ongoing, I'm just gonna move forward and start new series, so I'll probably tell you about those in the end. Let's get started. So in January we have Out of the Woods, and I'm gonna put pictures of them right here so you can see what I'm talking about. I read, I believe, Next to You by Hannah Bonham Young earlier this year, some point in the past couple of months, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the way that she writes. I don't know what this is about. Like I said, if you watch my channel at all, then you would know I don't typically go through the summaries of the books that I'm going to be reading. I don't want to know anything about the books that I'm going into. So most of these I'm not going to have anything to talk to you about. I'm just going to tell you that these are the ones that I'm excited for. Don't know much about them. If I do know, I will tell you. But Out of the Woods by Hannah Bonham Young and Spiral by Bal Cabra comes out in January, which is the second book to Collide. I really enjoyed Collide. It's a hockey romance and it's really cute. It's with people of color, and I really enjoyed it because it really showed you like the depth of the relationship between the two characters, and I really enjoyed it. I believe I gave it either 4.5 or 5 stars when I read it in the first time, so when I knew that this one was going to be a ballerina romance, I definitely was interested, and I'm definitely going to be picking that up. Then we move to February, which has a lot. We have Deep End by Ali Hazelwood, which is I believe a swimming romance, and I'm really interested to see because honestly, with Ali Hazelwood, she's released so many interesting books recently. Like she released Bride, she released Not in Love, which were so different to her usual STEMist novels, and I'm really excited to see what she does with a college swimming romance. I believe it is a college one. Then we have First Time Caller by B.K. Borison. Don't know what this is about, but I really do enjoy the cover, and I like B.K. Borison. I like the way that they write. I did read this book by them before, and I believe it was like a Christmas inspired fake dating best friends to lovers romance, and I really enjoyed the way that it was written, and I read it very quickly. So when I saw First Time Caller, I knew that I would absolutely have to read it. Then we have The Launch Date by Annabelle Slater. I did read the summary for this one and I totally forgot it, but by reading the summary I was like, I absolutely have to read this one because it sounds so interesting. I believe it's two people working on something that's going to be launched. I believe they're enemies. I could be totally mistaken. That one I'm very excited for because it seems like it's gonna be a good time. Then we have on the 18th, which is Rebel Witch, which is the second book to the Crimson Moth series duology. I'm not really sure. If you read the Crimson Moth, it's basically like a period romance between a witch and a witch hunter, and he's basically trying to out her as being the Crimson Moth, the person who helps witches escape, and it's a fantasy, and I'm very excited because the way that the first book ended was on a cliffhanger, and it was on something completely not expected, and I'm very excited to get into the second book. I have been waiting for it hand and foot, and I'm so excited. I cannot wait. The minute that it's out, I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be sat front row center outside the doors of Barnes & Noble, just like knocking on the door, waiting for them to open and first thing in the morning so I can get my copy of the book. If you like a good enemies to lovers, but like with so much angst, this one's the one for you. Then we have You Between the Lines by Katie Naiman. Don't know what this one is. No idea. I think it's about actors. I could be wrong. I don't know. But that one comes out also on the 18th, and I'm very excited for that one as well. Then we move into March, which we have March 11th being Fan Service by Rosie Danan, and I believe this one is about a TV show, maybe? No? Possibly? I'm not really sure. I didn't look it up, not really sure. I just really like the cover of it. Then we have 18th, which is The Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins, and that is going to be Haymitch's story from The Hunger Games. If you read The Hunger Games and you know who Haymitch is, it is like a prequel-ish kind of situation from when Haymitch won the games, and I'm very, very excited because anything by Suzanne Collins, I will be there. I will be front row center sat ready to read. I will be there also because I love The Hunger Games. I love being back in that world. April, which is a top-notch month for book releases. It's honestly like one of the best book release months I've ever seen. On the first, we have Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. Ooh, girl. Ooh, girl. I just started recently reading Abby Jimenez this year, and I absolutely adored it, and I love Yours Truly so much. It's one of my favorite romances ever. The way that she wrote that trope, the way that she wrote that story, the way that she created those characters, the way that she created Jacob, I love him so much and I will never stop thinking about him. He is truly one of my favorite book boyfriends ever. And I heard a lot of people say that if you are a book crier, even if you're not, you are going to be crying over Say You'll Remember Me. So that will be something that I am definitely sat front row center for. Then we have also on the first is Any Trope But You by Victoria Levine. Not really sure what this one is about, but it sounds interesting because I imagine it's gonna be like a enemies to lovers, like just not you, anybody but you. So I don't know, I'm very, very excited by that. This is when the month really starts to pick up. On the 8th, we have Fearless by Lauren Roberts, which is the third book to the Powerless trilogy, and I am so excited because I love this trilogy so much. I cannot stop thinking about it. I can't stop reading it. The minute that the book is out, I'm there, I'm sat, I'm buying it. Honestly, with the way that these books are being released in April, I could do my most anticipated reads of the year in that month alone because of how many good books are coming out in that month. I am gonna be at the bookstore quite literally every other day trying to buy a book. If you don't know what Powerless is, it's this world, this fantasy world where there's ordinaries which don't have any powers and the people with powers, and it's basically a love story, enemies to lovers, and there's also like a trial where our main character gets taken into it and she is an ordinary, she has no powers, but she pretends that she has some sort of power and it just goes down. It goes down. It's so good. I really, really enjoy it. It has all the good like tropes and lines that you would need in a book that make you just giggle and kick your feet, and I really, really like it. Watch Me by Tahara Mafi, which is a new book in the new part of the Shatter Me world. I cannot believe I'm living in a world where Tahara Mafi is releasing new books in the Shatter Me world. I cannot believe I'm living it. I'm definitely gonna be there. Shatter Me is my favorite series of all time, and I'm not talking about the end of it. I really, really like the first like original trilogy before there was the announcement for the next half. Aaron Warner is that guy. I literally have the word Ignite tattooed on my body from Ignite Me, the book. So I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be sat front row center. Definitely gonna be in my most anticipated reads video because I just love Tahara Mafi, and I love the fact that she created the man that I would absolutely take a bullet for, no questions, comments, concerns. So A Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry, my queen, my goddess. We don't need me to say anything about Emily Henry. We all know, and if we know, then I'm gonna tell you now. I love Emily Henry. She is my favorite, my queen. Her books are literally right behind me. I love her so much. She is one of my favorite, if not my favorite author of all time. She created Augustus, and I love him. And she created January, and I love her. And she created just the most amazing, incredible worlds, and I love her writing so much. I don't know anything about this book. All I know is that I am there, I'm sat, it's Emily Henry, so you best believe every dollar you own that I'm gonna be reading it. Even if it's not something I typically enjoy, if it's Emily Henry, I'm gonna be reading it 9 times out of 10, if not 10 times out of 10, just because of how much I adore the way that she writes her books. I think what I'm going to end up doing is probably wait until the end of April to go to the bookstore and just buy all of those books at once, because I don't know if I want to be at the bookstore every other day, but I'm very, very excited because it seems like this month will be probably the month that I will be doing my most anticipated reads because I'm just so excited for all of these books. And then we have on the 24th, Rewind It Back by Liz Tornford, which is a part of the Windy City series. It's basically a sports romance series. Skip the first one. skip the first one. It's not good. Everything after that is absolutely insane. Ryan Shea, the man that you are, he is just all of that and more. I adore him so much. And then we also had Play Along, which just came out this year, and I adored it so much. One of my favorite reads of all time. Liz Tomford has such a way of writing a story that you can care about and that you can really adore. And the men that she writes, oh, I love them so much. I love them so much. She writes some of the best men that I've ever read about. So very excited. Don't know which one this one is going to be about, but whoever it is, I'm very excited and I'm there. I'm just there for the vibes. To end the month, we have King of Envy by Anna Huang, which is another book in the Kings of Sin series. And that one is also about just a bunch of men who portray different sins, and I adore this series. I read it so very quickly. I have the fondest memories of reading King of Wrath, King of Greed. I love it. I adore it so much, and I did read, I believe it was King of Sloth in a video this year for my most anticipated, so I think I just must follow it through and read the next one in another most anticipated reads video because I just adore everything that Anna Huang writes. She has such a way of writing billionaires that makes me just want to like lose my mind, you know, for the lack of a better word. Then we move on to May, and there's another just beautiful month of absolute bangers after bangers. We have on the 6th, One Golden Summer by Carly Fortune, which I believe follows the brother from Every Summer After, which is the book that destroyed me at some point this year. I love Carly Fortune's writing. I discovered her this year. I really, really adore the way that she writes a story and the way that she makes you care about the characters and just like follow them through this like period of life where you just get to see them go through all these things and like you just get to experience that with them and get to love them and get to know them. So by the end of the book, you just feel so attached to every single one of them. I feel like I know every single character that she's ever written about because of how much I fall headfirst for every single character that she writes. So I'm very, very excited about that. And the fact that it's about the brother from Every Summer After. If you've read Every Summer After, then you know. Girl, I'm so excited. I cannot wait. On the 13th, which is Love Arranged by Lauren Asher, which is a book in the something series. I don't remember it, or trilogy. It has Love Redesigned, Love Unwritten, and then this one. Love Redesigned is one of my favorite books that I've ever read, and I read it for a romance books video, and I adored it so much, and I loved it so much that I could not personally not continue on with the rest of the series. And Love Unwritten was really good and it was done really, really well. And this one also follows, I believe it's called the Lakefront Billionaires series. So it's basically about billionaires who are in a small town and you just get to follow them. The first one is like an enemies to lovers, rivals to lovers. And then the second one was a single father trope, and I adored both of them. They were done so very well. I love Lauren Asher. I love the way that she writes books. I love the way that she creates characters. And though those books in the Lakefront Billionaires series specifically are absolutely huge and ginormous, I fly through them in like 2 days max. So I'm not really concerned. Whoever it's about, I'm gonna eat it up anyways. Then we have on the 20th is The Love Haters by Catherine Center. I read The Bodyguard and Hello Stranger by Catherine Center earlier this year and I absolutely adored them. I love them. I love the way that Catherine Center writes because it's so easy to get lost in the way that she writes and it's so easy to get lost in the story. I always end up really liking the characters that she writes, except the one in Hello Stranger was like really unhinged and really like lost in her mind. I loved the way that she wrote that story, and I love the fact that she can write a story in like 400, 500 pages that can make you just feel so attached to everybody and feel like you just watched a rom-com. It really feels like I genuinely watched a rom-com whenever I read her books, and I really, really enjoy them. Then on the 27th, my queen, Annabelle Monaghan, is releasing. It's a love story. I don't know what it's about, and I don't care what it's about. Ask me if I cared. No, I'm gonna read it regardless. I read Summer Romance and Nora Goes Off Script this year. I read Nora Goes Off Script in a 24-hour readathon and then Summer Romance in some other video, and I adored both of them. Both of them were 5-star reads. I love the way that she writes a story. I love the way that she creates such an emotional, like just heart-wrenching story that can really, really tug on your heartstrings. She's so good at like creating characters that go through these things that feel just so real and so human and feel so realistic to real life. Like the marriages that she writes, both of the ones that I read were divorce romances, and both of them were kind of like my introduction to divorce romances, and I adored them so much because the way that she wrote them, it just felt like I don't even typically like gravitate towards divorce romances, but every time I see her books, I'm like, hell yeah.
Yeah. You know what? Hell yeah. Yeah.
Give it to me, I'll reread it. The minute that I finished Summer Romance, I was immediately ready to pick it up and reread it again. So I'm very, very excited. I will read anything that she writes. She is one of my favorite authors of all time. Her and Carly Fortune, I think, are the ones that I discovered this year that I absolutely adored, that I really, really liked the writing of and the way that they craft a story. And I'm very, very excited for it. It's a love story. Honestly, May feels so far away, and I wish it was a little bit sooner that she was releasing that book. But regardless, I'm gonna be there, I'm gonna be sad, and I'm gonna read it, and it's gonna be the best time that I ever have. So then we're on to June, and this is when my list starts to dwindle. We only have a couple more. We have, on the 10th, Never Been Shipped by Alicia Thompson. I don't know what this one is about, so don't ask me. I have no idea what it's about. All I know is that it's a cute cover. It has a cute cover. That's all I want to read it for, to be honest. Then for July, we have Rose in Chains by Julie Soto. If you don't know who Julie Soto is, if you haven't read anything by Julie Soto, she wrote this Wattpad-looking romance. I don't remember what it's called, but I remember the cover of it very, very clearly because I really only picked it up for the cover because I thought it was really, really cute. And then she wrote Not Another Love Song as well, which I didn't read, but I've heard a lot of things about it. People really, really love it. I think she's a very talented author. She really made me enjoy the first book that I read by her, and I definitely want to get to Not Another Love Song. Rose in Chains is actually, I believe, going to be her first fantasy novel, and I'm very, very excited for it. And then we have Made for Each Other by Lynn Painter. Like I said, everybody say it with me. Don't know what it's about, but it's by Lynn Painter. And I love Lynn Painter, especially her adult books. I think she has such a way of writing. If you can write both adult books and young adult books and have both of them have very like ride or die hard fans, then I think you've done a very good job. And so I am one of her biggest fans. I read Mr. Wrong Number, and I read the one that comes after that, and I read Not Like the Movies, and I adored everything that I've read by her. So anything she releases, I will be there, I will be sad, and I will read it. I am very, very excited. This sounds like it's going to be a fun time. Don't know what it's about, but like I said, it's Lynn Painter. I don't really need to know what it's about. Then we have Sounds Like Love by Ashley Poston, who wrote The 7-Year Slip and The Dead Romantics and a novel Love Story, and I've read all three of those books. They are some of the most heart-wrenching books that I've ever read. She writes magical realism in the most realistic way possible. Like The 7-Year Slip is basically about this girl who goes into an apartment that travels 7 years in the past or in the future, and I believe it was also in the future, and she gets transported back after her aunt passes away, and she's going through a very hard time, and she meets the love of her life that way. And The Dead Romantics is basically about a ghost who comes to talk to this girl, I believe. I read it a very long time ago, I don't remember. And a novel Love Story is about this girl who takes this drive after her friends are basically like kind of just being bad friends, but not really. She ends up in her favorite book series world, and it's so cute. Her writing is always like so emotional, and it tugs on my heartstrings, and I really, really adore her when it comes to writing romances, especially The 7-Year Slip. It's one of my favorite books. It's right behind me, right over there. I really, really adored it. It was done so well, and even though it was magical realism, and I'm not the biggest fan of magical realism, I tend to really adore her romances, and so I'm not really sure if Sounds Like Love is about magical realism or has any magical realism in it. I don't care. I'm gonna read it anyways because it's Ashley Poston, and she is also one of my favorite authors that I've ever discovered. I really, really, really started adoring her writing after this year when I read The 7-Year Slip. So I'm very, very excited. Love her. Adore her. I will be there, and I will absolutely buy my own copy of that book so I can annotate it. Then we have, lastly but not least, the one that's on my list. On October 9th, we have The Defender by Anna Huang, and this one is in the sports romance series that Anna Huang just started writing, which has The Striker, which is about a ballerina and a soccer player, and they fall in love, and it's like a enemies to lovers. She's his rival's sister, and so they end up having this thing, and it's a bunch of mess, and I really, really adored it. I read it a couple of months ago, and it's still very fresh in my mind. It was really fun. It was such a fun romance. Like I said about Anna Huang, she's releasing something earlier in the year. She's one of my favorite authors. I will absolutely read anything she releases because her books have such a soft spot in my heart just because of where I was in my life when I first discovered her, and so I love everything she's ever written, and I believe actually I've read most of everything she's ever written, if not all of it. I'm not really sure. I haven't done the math yet, but I have read a lot of her writing. Definitely one of my favorite authors. That is the list for everything that I really want to read next year, the books that are being released. I'm sure as we get into the year, we are going to have a few more come here and there for the second half of the year, because right now, as of right now, from what I know, everything that I've Googled is basically just being published in the first half of the year. So like I said, I think Ashley Poston's book comes out July 17th, and that is where my list kind of cuts off until when The Defender gets released. So I'm sure once we get earlier in the year, like in March or whatever, we're gonna get more books that are being released later on in the year, and then we'll probably do another half of my most anticipated reads. So that is something I'm very excited for. I'm very happy, very excited to get into it and read all of these books, because I feel like it's gonna be such a good year for book releases. Let's quickly get into some of the series that I will be starting, or that I will want to start. It's a very long list, so I'll make it short for you. First, we have Royal Elite by Rena Kent. She is one of the authors that I look and I see everywhere, and her books get recommended everywhere, and there's so many of them. There are so many of them that you need a reading order list to see how you can read them, because there's so many series that she's written. And anytime I see a post on Instagram of like a couple or a quote or whatever, it always happens to be Rena Kent. I don't know how that happens. I have been meaning to read something by Rena Kent literally this entire year, and I've just like stopped myself from reading anything by her because I wanted to finish the series that I'm in the middle of. And now that we're in the end of that, that is going to be my first thing that I go to. Crescent City by Sarah J Maas. I have not read Crescent City by Sarah J Maas, obviously, because it's on this list. I read ACOTAR and I read Throne of Glass. I actually read Throne of Glass last year, which is how I started this channel. That was the first series that I ever read, and I needed someone to talk to about it, and so I did I read the Throne of Glass series, so you don't have to. She is one of the authors that I read like way back in the day when I was in high school. I started Throne of Glass and then I stopped, and then I finished all of the ACOTAR, and then I got back into Throne of Glass last year. And now my goal is to read the Crescent City books, which are huge, and I'm very scared and very nervous because people have so much to say about the last book in the series, so that kind of makes me nervous, but I'm still very excited anyways. Kingdom of the Wicked by Karen Maniscalco, and that's simply for the fact that I just want to get into the Prince of Sins, I believe, series, and people say that you should read the Kingdom of the Wicked series first so you don't kind of spoil yourself for what happens in the next books or whatever. So I'm gonna read Kingdom of the Wicked so I can move on into the next one. I'm very excited. I always hear so many things about Karen Maniscalco and all of her writing, and I've always wanted to start a series by her, but like I said, that just hasn't happened, and that makes me sad. So I'm gonna probably try to start something by her. Maybe I'll do a video where I can just read a bunch of series that I want to start. This Wolven Kingdom by Tahereh Mafi. Don't know what it's about, but I do know it is a fantasy trilogy, series, duology. I'm not really sure, but it's Tahereh Mafi, and I've read everything by Tahereh Mafi, even her middle grade book that she released like a few years ago. So I adore her, and I must simply get to know what this book is about, what this book series is about. It's a fantasy, and it's by Tahereh Mafi, and I have a tattoo by Tahereh Mafi. So we have Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson, which I believe is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. It's been on my TBR for a very long time. I really want to get into it because I've heard a lot of people say that the way that it's written is very good, and I'm very excited. I love me a good Beauty and the Beast retelling. That's why I read ACOTAR for the first time. So, and this was like way before BookTube and whatever. So, The Stolen Heir by Holly Black, which is in the Folk of the Air series, I believe it's called, which I absolutely adored. I love Jude and Carden, and I haven't read The Stolen Heir, and I believe it's a duology, so I really want to get into that. Belladonna by Adeline Grace, which is, I believe, is a fantasy series about a girl who has a romance thing with the actual like embodiment of death. From what I know, it's a fantasy, and a lot of people say that it's a good one, so I really want to get into that one. The Rose Hill series by Elsie Silver, because I'm reading the first series right now for the book series I'm in the middle of, and I absolutely adore the way that it was written. And I believe I've heard a lot of people say that Rose Hill is about a bunch of single father tropes, so I'm very excited because I think Elsie Silver writes very good romances, and she does it really well. I think that she writes very good. And within the same of a small town romance, cowboy romance, we have The Rebel Blue Ranch by Lila Sage, which is also just another small town cowboy romance, and I'm very excited. The covers of this series are absolutely gorgeous, and that is the main reason why I want to read them. So Lightlark by Alex Astor, which is a fantasy, and I believe it also has like like a trial component to it where like they get put into this thing and they have to fight against each other or something like that. I've heard a lot of people talk about it and I've been really meaning to read it. So lastly but not least, we have Shatter Me, The New Republic by Tahira Mafi, which the first book of will be coming out this year, like I said, which is going to be Watch Me, and I'm very excited because like I said, it's Tahira Mafi, and if I can start this Woven Kingdom and finish it and also start with the new Shatter Me world, then I'll be very happy and it will be a very good year. And with that being said, that is it. The 25 books that I am looking forward to reading next year, my highly anticipated 25 books for 2025. I hope you enjoyed it, and a bunch of series that I would really love to start in the new year. Let me know down below what books you're excited for. Let me know if any of these books are on your radar, if you've read any of these series that I want to start, and what your opinions are on them. Very excited. I think it's going to be definitely a good year of reading. This year so far, as I'm filming this video, I've read 201 books when my goal was 100 in the beginning of the year, and I'm very excited. This has been my most like productive year of reading, so I'm very proud of myself. I hope next year is just as good, if not better, and I will see you when I see you. I hope you have a very best day. Treat yourself to something nice, and I'll see you guys again next week with another video. Goodbye!